Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kassandra and today I'm doing a prenatal yin yoga class. So congratulations to all the pregnant mamas for following along with me in this yin yoga class. Now I will admit that there is some controversy when it comes to prenatal anything and yin yoga. So some teachers say that pregnant women should not be practicing yin yoga, while others like me say that it's fine as long as you have moderation in your practice. So the reason some people say that you should not be practicing yin yoga is that when you are pregnant, your body is naturally producing this hormone called relaxin, and it's making you a little bit more flexible. Your body is preparing you for childbirth. It's loosening everything up. And that's a great thing. That's fantastic. The reason yin yoga can become problematic is that yin yoga is all about increasing your flexibility and finding your edge. So when you're pregnant, you might find that you're actually so much more flexible than you were before you got pregnant. And then it becomes a little bit harder to gauge where your limit and your edge actually is. And I would never want you to risk going too far into a stretch and injuring yourself in any way, right? So the only big disclaimer and thing that I'm gonna ask for you today is that it's totally fine to do yin yoga, but don't go as far as you normally would before you got pregnant. So just, even though you feel like you might be able to do the splits right now, try to hold back a little bit. The intention for this practice is really to just like relieve low back pain, open up the hips just a little bit, really just focusing on like some isolated stretches and opening the side waist, which can really become neglected throughout pregnancy. This is good for first, second, and third trimester. I'm gonna ask that you have plenty of props. So 2 blocks and some cushions if you can, some pillows, bolsters, that kind of stuff, especially if you're in your 3rd trimester of practice. You'll probably want to prop yourself up as the belly gets bigger and as you move into this practice for just some of the poses. But of course, I'll do my best to give you guys as many options as I possibly can. And oh my God, I have talked so much. Sorry about that. Let's just get right into it. So let's begin with our Yogi Squat. So Yogi Squat, we're not gonna hold it very long, only 2 minutes. You wanna start with your heels in, toes out, hip width distance apart, if not much wider. You want to be able to accommodate for this growing belly. Hands are coming together and you're using the elbows to push the knees open a little bit wider. So this pose is a wonderful pose to prepare for childbirth, but it is also one of those poses where we can easily go too far. So if you want to minimize it and make it a lot easier to hold, you can actually just sit yourself up on 1 or 2 blocks and do the pose from here. So a lot easier. This is a great way to relieve low back pain. And you know what? I'm not pregnant, but I'm just gonna do it on the block because it's a lot more comfortable. So close the eyes, draw the shoulders away from the ears and focus in. And a nice thing to do here can be to bring your hands on your belly. Still try to keep pressing the knees open a little bit wider. And this is a great space to connect with baby. Taking slow, steady breaths in and out through the nose. If you have your hands on your belly, you can rub a little bit, sending some loving, positive thoughts to baby. And we don't want any breath retention in prenatal yoga. So make sure your breath is always flowing. Shoulders soften, muscles in the jaw relax. 5 more deep belly breaths here. And we'll bring the fingertips down to the floor. We're gonna come to Dangling Pose, which is just a forward fold with the legs wide. So feet parallel to the longer edges of the mat. You can just ease your way out. I'm gonna bring my block with me for this one. So depending on how big the belly is at this point, you might need to widen your feet off the mat, so more like a wide-legged fold. That's perfectly fine as well. And what I'm gonna do is, instead of folding in really close to the thighs, I'm gonna bring my hands on the block and I'm gonna bring the block further out in front of me. So there's a bit of a traction out of the low back. This is not about having straight legs. In fact, I really want you to be able to bend your knees a lot and rock some of the weight back into your heels as you find the counter reach and the counter stretch through the fingers. Drop the head again here. And this is another pose where we don't hold it very long because it is a little bit more demanding on the legs, but just taking about 10 or so deep breaths here. So Dangling Pose is a Yin Yoga asana. It's not one that I teach too often in my Yin Yoga classes, just because I feel like it demands a little bit too much strength, and I like my Yin Yoga to be restorative, but this really is a great pose for any pregnant lady out there. Feel the nice reach through the fingers, stretching the sides of the waist, shaking out the head. And like I said, we're not here very long, so just start to come back down onto hands and knees, tabletop pose. And from our hands and knees, we'll make our way into deer pose. So you'll want to bring your right knee behind your right wrist, as if you were coming into pigeon pose, and let yourself rock back onto that right hip. So you want to find that 90-degree angle with your front knee, and then you're going to find a 90-degree angle with your back leg as well. So my left knee is aligned to my hip and my shin is parallel to the long edge of the mat. And I'll just turn so you can see it from another angle. So the right knee with the right hip, the left knee with the left hip, feet are flexed. And now from here, try to press your left hip down. This is really great for the inner groin and also for like a deep internal hip rotation. My favorite way to do deer pose is to walk the hands back and kind of rock back in this way, and then you'll really get to the inside of that leg. Not an area that we target a lot in yoga. Or you can fold over your right thigh, but depending on how far along you are, this might not be accessible to you. So choose the version that works. I'm gonna walk the hands back. Keep trying to press that left hip down and just soften into the pose. About 3 or 4 minutes here. Keep trying to relax that left hip down. And imagine you can breathe with baby at the same time. Sending all of your loving, healing thoughts right to your womb. And let's start to come out of the pose. So bringing the hands back in, take your time to come back to center. So your left leg will face forward and we'll move to the other side. So this time you are aligning your left knee with your left hip. Shin is parallel to the front of your mat. Right knee aligned with your right hip. Right shin parallel to the longer edge of your mat. So this time try to press that right hip down until you get the nice stretch to the inside of that thigh. And you can either just walk the hands back if that's what you did on the first side, or you can fold in towards your left leg. So just repeat whatever you did on that first side so you're really evening things out. And I like to flex the feet. It does help to protect the knees and protect the joints in this pose. And take a moment or two to get comfortable here, creating some space. So this practice is not about doing or accomplishing anything. There is no goal, there is no end result that we're looking for. We just want to create this space so that you can give yourself a little bit of self-care, so that you can just connect to baby. You might find that life gets so busy that maybe you don't even really have time to enjoy your pregnancy that much. So this is a great little ritual that you can come back to, just to reconnect. Let's come back up out of this pose, walking the hands in. And we're just going to come and take a seat here. So you can sit any way that's comfortable to you. For me, that's just cross-legged. You might want to boost yourself up on a block or on a blanket. We're going to take a neck release. So just to relieve any tension you might have in the shoulders or in the jaw. So sitting up nice and tall, just let your left ear drop to the left shoulder. Keep the chin slightly lifted, and if you want to go further, you can crawl the right fingertips out to the side, and to go further still, you can bring your left hand to the top of the head, just pulling the ear slightly further away from the shoulder, lengthening that space. And roll the chin down towards your left shoulder and left armpit. Stretching more at the back of the neck. And let's bring the head all the way back up. Moving to the other side. So bring the spine back to neutral. You can even change the cross of your legs if you were sitting cross-legged, so you're evening things out. And then this time, right ear drops to the right shoulder. Chin is slightly lifted. If you'd like to go further, the left fingertips crawl out to the side. Right hand to the side of the head, and create a little bit more space. Relaxing the facial muscles, the jaw, the tongue, the cheeks. And roll the chin down towards the right shoulder and right armpit, stretching at the back of the neck. Cradling the head, lift it all the way back up, and we'll move into side seal. This is one of my favorite poses, and I seem to always forget about it, but it's a great way to stretch the sides of the waist. So if you've been having low back pain, this is a great way to alleviate it without needing to, lay on your belly or do anything that's not really accessible when you're pregnant. So you just need to roll onto your right hip and extend your legs out to the sides. So stacking one leg roughly over the other, and then bringing the right hand out and your left hand in front of you. So just from doing this, you should start to feel a nice, great big stretch through the right side of the waist. If it's too much, you can always just lower down onto your forearm and make it a little bit more accessible here. And you can also put a pillow or a block or something like that underneath the side of your waist to give yourself a little bit more padding. So the deeper the angle, the deeper the stretch. So the closer you have your right hand towards your hip, the more intense this will feel along the side of your waist. And you want to drop, kind of let yourself sink and melt into it. Take the tension and the pressure out of the neck, out of the jaw, and just breathe into the right side body. Lengthening your tailbone towards the heels. And if you feel a little wobbly in your balance, you can always widen your stance with your feet so you don't feel like you're going to fall one way or the other. And this is another one where if you have your balance and you feel pretty good in it, you can just rest your left hand to your belly. Just softening into the pose. Remember that we're not going too far into any poses. Not overstretching, not forcing anything. Just for prenatal, anything less is more, always. Let your belly fully relax. So you're definitely not trying to suck anything in. Feel the breath travel all the way down to the low belly and low back. Opening the eyes, both knees will bend. We'll make our way to the other side. So from seated, you're just going to shift the weight onto your left hip and extend the legs out. So either stacking one leg over the other, or you can just have one leg a little bit further back to keep your balance, especially as the belly is growing. And then you decide either the left arm is roughly underneath the shoulder, or you can lower down onto your forearm and make this a little bit easier. And I always find that one side is a lot different from the other, so just readjust until you find that sweet spot, and then it'll be a lot easier to hold the pose for the few minutes that we're here. And we'll ease off of this side. We're gonna make our way to a very wide child's pose. And we're gonna support this child's pose. So especially if you are later or further along in your pregnancy, you're going to want to have your blocks and some pillows close by. So I'm gonna do the pose as if I was in my 3rd trimester, just to demonstrate what I mean. So and usually we have the big toes touching and we're trying to rest the hips to the heels. That might not be comfortable or possible at this point. So one option that I like to do is to put a block in between the feet and to just let the hips sink back onto that block, and then widen the knees as much as is comfortable. And now, depending on how big the belly is, you probably won't be able to fold all the way down. If you're still 1st or 2nd trimester, you can probably just do a regular wide like a child's pose and not have to worry so much about it. Otherwise, you want to fill the gap between basically the belly and you and the floor and you by using your props. So laying it across the chest and making room for your belly at the center here can be an easier way to do this wide like a child's pose. And again, even if you are super flexible, hold back a little bit. This is an intense, deep hip opener. It's a great way to relieve pressure on the low back, but we don't want to go too far. And I know I'm a bit of a broken record by saying that, but it is very important. So take the time to get yourself comfortable, and you can turn one ear to the ground, or you can always just let the forehead rest. And let's start to lift out of this pose. We'll come to a tabletop pose just to do some hip circles. A really great way to relieve any tension. So palms under the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, and just tracing circles here. So moving in any way that feels good. Getting the energy flowing again, the blood circulating. You can move in the opposite direction. And we'll come to take a seat. So those of you in first trimester or maybe even early trimester can do Shavasana, lying down on your back. If the belly is getting a little bit bigger, that might not be comfortable. So you can either roll to your side or you can do what I'm doing and just closing our practice with a seated meditation. So fully up to you, do whatever feels best at home for you to close off this practice. If you're in your meditation, sit up nice and tall, hands on the knees, close the eyes. And actually, let's bring right hand to the belly, left hand on top. So one last time, making the connection with baby or babies, who knows. Feeling the breath as you inhale, go all the way down, traveling to the heart, and then down to the low belly, to your womb. Make this practice an offering. An offering to this experience of motherhood, this experience of pregnancy. And you can keep your hands on your belly if you'd like, or you can bring them back to the knees. Sitting in silence and stillness for a few more moments. Bring our hands to the heart. If you were in Shavasana, you can start coming back up and join us here. Taking a few deep breaths, pressing the thumbs to the heart and lifting up through the chest. Back of the neck is long, so the chin lightly draws into the chest. Breathing into that heart space. And we'll close our practice with the chant of Om one time. You can join or just listen. We'll inhale to chant. So breathe in. Namaste. Thank you so much, everyone, for doing this Yin Yoga practice with me. Please let me know how it went for you. Leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you. And let me know where you are in your pregnancy. If you know if you're expecting a boy or a girl, I would love to know about it. If you are new to my channel, I hope that you will subscribe. I put out multiple videos every single week, and honestly, subscribing is free and it's a great way to help support all the work that I do on YouTube here. Thank you so very much. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.